Let me pull up this story from The Hill. GOP rep Thomas Massie endorses DeSantis for 2024. That's it. That's the story. He said America needs a leader who is decisive, respects the Constitution, understands policy, puts family first, and leads by inspiring. That's why I'm endorsing Ron DeSantis for president. If we make the right choices, America's best days are in front of us. Let's pick a proven, energetic leader who can get us there. He continued, let's choose Ron DeSantis for president.
That means that Donald Trump is going to knock Representative Thomas Massie down to a 5th rate. As opposed to a 2nd rate.
I've talked ad nauseum about my views on DeSantis. I think he's fantastic. I really do think he's done a great job in Florida. I don't know if I would, at this point right now, vote for him over Trump. I'm curious, Dave, what you think about Massie's endorsement and DeSantis.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not exactly sure. First off, Thomas Massie is the best congressman in the country.
100%.
And so I give him a lot of credit. And look, Thomas Massie was the one who stood up in real time while the COVID emergency was going on and said, this is insane to just be giving away $2 trillion in corporate bailouts with no type of vote, no audit of what's going on. And he was completely demonized by Donald Trump at the time. Donald Trump really sent all of his sycophants after Massie, which is a horrible thing to do. Massie was 100% right. This is what not only really created so much of the instability we have today, but so much of the price inflation that people have been suffering under for the last couple of years was due to these monstrous spending bills in 2020. So I also understand why Massie maybe isn't the biggest fan of Donald Trump.
I was with Trump on that back during the shutdowns, but I think it's fair to say that hindsight is 20/20. And I think, my view of it back then was there's videos of people collapsing in the street. We don't know a whole lot. Maybe we just need to stem the bleed of the economic, problems now and then try and figure out what's going on. Looking back on all of it, yeah, I think Thomas Massie was completely right.
Well, that's
the best I can do.
That's fair enough. I think that the thing is, if you understand the nature of how the federal government bills like this work, you just know it's not as if there's ever any real the people are hurting, so we need aid. It's just a race of lobbyists, everyone getting their little special thing in there, and then you're lucky if the American people get some crumbs on it. But anyway, I'll just say that I do think, look, it's hard to deny that even though he wasn't very good at the very beginning, that what DeSantis did in Florida for COVID was just so much better than almost every other governor in the country. I guess Kristi Noem is the exception to that. I think she never had any mandates or lockdowns or anything. But South Dakota is not Florida, and Florida is a much bigger state with an old population, and he really put all of his chips in at a very dangerous time on we're not going to go totalitarian here in Florida, and it paid off. And so I understand where there's a reason why he flipped a purple state into a 20-point red state.
Seriously.
I mean, you have to acknowledge that.
And the mass exodus from these blue states into Florida because of his leadership. Yeah. So the question then becomes DeSantis or Trump. Now, obviously, I know, you're probably a more libertarian guy, but let's isolate this to the GOP primary. Who do you think would be better for the Republicans?
Well, for the Republicans, and just it's real clear to preface this, it's not, again, because I was trying to say this the last time I was on the show, it's not like I'm saying I'm not making the perfect the enemy of the good. I'm not saying I understand Republicans, both Trump or DeSantis would be much better than Joe Biden in a lot of ways. My thing is that I think America is going to die. I think this is a patient who's bleeding out, and you're well, a Band-Aid is better than not a Band-Aid. Yeah. And I'm no, he will still die. We need a revolutionary moment here to drastically cut the size of the scope of government. I will say from what you asked me, from the Republican perspective, as of right now, I gotta say, I don't really see any metric by which DeSantis is better for the Republicans. Donald Trump has, as I've known when I've argued with you about my criticisms of Donald Trump, I had a debate with Styx about this, and I've heard back from a lot of the Trump supporters, and I don't even mean this as a knock on them, but there is a bit of a cult of personality going on there. If DeSantis goes to war with Donald Trump, which it'll have to be in order for him to challenge him for the nomination, I don't think Trump's people will fall in line with DeSantis. I think they're Trump or bust. And I think the only guy the Republicans have who can actually put that coalition together, whether that's enough to win, I don't know, but I think it's Trump.
There's probably a lot of moderates who would vote for DeSantis but wouldn't vote for Trump.
There's a lot of people that will not vote for Trump.
Yeah, there might be some. I mean, that's probably true. You know, the other thing, DeSantis is such a big question mark on his foreign policy, and he was really bad as a congressman on this issue.
Well, elaborate on that, because I've heard people say he was good.
Oh, no, I mean, good if you're like, you know, kind of good if you think like George W. Bush had great foreign policy, then sure. But no, he was a complete hawk in every sense of the word. He was like on board with every one of the military actions that he could have been while he was in Congress. Now, that doesn't matter so much when you're governor of Florida. And when you're governor of Florida, your COVID policy is like a hell of a lot more important than where you stand on the wars. But when you're the president of the United States, the most important thing is where you stand on the wars. That's the one area where you're like the dictator. And so that's a big deal.
So about a year ago, in reference to your cult of personality thing with people who have argued, about a year ago, I was totally on board for DeSantis. And I said, you know, Trump's whining and he won't shut up about 2020 and I'm not interested.
That was rough to listen to.
And so I'm just like, and then here's DeSantis who's coming and cleaning up all these messes in Florida and doing a great job. Now, over the past several months, I've seen something else. Donald Trump has cleaned up his messaging. He's come out. He's talked about the war machine. He's talked about the deep state, the economy. He's made these videos where he's like, my policy will be to do this thing. And I'm like, these are good. He shows up in East Palestine. He buys everybody McDonald's, which was human and endearing. And I really liked it. But more importantly, he's gotten back to the I will crush the deep state and execute order Schedule F. And Ron DeSantis, to me, when this is important because this was a critical moment for me. When they said they wanted to indict Trump and Ron DeSantis 2 times said, I'm not getting involved in this, I was like, I can't vote for that guy. I think he's great. If I was in Florida, I'd vote for him for governor. As president, the guy whose attitude is, don't look at me, I'm not getting involved, is like, are you kidding me, dude? We need Donald Trump to go in and fire everyone. And DeSantis showed me right there, he's more likely to be the guy who goes in and says, how can we work together?
Yeah, the FBI needs to be reformed or something like that. You know?
And Trump's going to be like, I want revenge.
Well, he might. I mean, that very likely might be the case. Although Donald Trump has been wronged by people and then worked with them and endorsed and supported or even appointed them before. So I don't know. I'm not that confident. I will say what really bothered me with the Ron DeSantis thing was that he walked back the somewhat good comments he had made about the war in Ukraine. I think it's an interesting dynamic here where you have, say, like the Republican Party, the Republican establishment is completely on board with this war, this proxy war of choice on the border of the country with the biggest nuclear arsenal in the history of the world, the most insane policy imaginable. And you got Mitch McConnell is wearing like a Ukraine lapel pin. Mitch McConnell said the number one issue, the number one priority as this country is crumbling is that we keep supporting Ukraine. And so it was kind of interesting to see now Donald Trump's coming out and saying, telling the truth, which is that we should just be negotiating toward peace right now. This is insane that we're fighting this proxy war. DeSantis kind of came out and kind of said like, well, I don't know if it's exactly a vital that we do this, and then seemed to kind of walk those comments back. To me, if there's going to be one compelling case to vote for anybody, it would be who is going to end this insanity, this game of brinksmanship that has brought us closer to nuclear war than at any point, at least since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
The Libertarian Party. Should any one of their potential candidates, we'll just put it that way very, very vaguely, should any one of their candidates become the president, do you think they will execute Schedule F?
Schedule F?
Yeah, firing all the bureaucrats.
I think that, yes. I mean, look, you have, a lot of things have to happen in order for that to happen. But let's say if the Libertarian candidate for president wins the presidency, then there has already been a major shift in this country, right? Yeah. Like something huge has happened where a whole bunch of people have gone, hey, we're going to completely rethink the way we think about politics right now. And we like this guy who's talking about giving us more of a free country. So nice. there would be a tremendous mandate behind that person, unlike any Republican or Democrat could have if they had won, because so many people are just voting for their party. And so, yeah, now I would say, of course, that's what we would do. You'd probably want to do it in a strategically smart way, you know? I'd be a little bit concerned about. I wouldn't take any convertible rides through Dallas the day after I gave that order.
Can I just say? I want to make a request to the people who are listening because I don't have the means to do this. But could somebody take the scene from Star Wars when the Emperor says execute Order 66 and just make it Trump in a cloak and use the 11 Labs AI voice deepfake technology to make Trump say execute Schedule F and then just show a whole bunch of bureaucrats being like let out of offices with empty boxes and stuff like that?
Well, it'll be.
Well, it plays the very serious dramatic.
Look, the problem with Trump is, at least say the first time he was president, I never saw anything out of him that convinced me that he would actually follow through with something that bold. And every time he flirted around with doing something really bold, he walked it back. Whoever got in the room with him, whatever they convinced him or lied to him or threatened him or whatever it was, he always had. He hired the absolute best guy that you should hire, who should have been his defense secretary from day one. But he hired Colonel Douglas McGregor to come in and draw up the plans to end these wars. And he hired him after he lost the election to Joe Biden. So they had just this little lame duck period to work with. So Colonel Douglas McGregor draws up the order to end the war in Afghanistan and Syria and pull all troops out. Donald Trump signs it. And the next day, he rescinded the offer. He rescinded the order, excuse me. Now, I don't know who got in the room with them. I don't know if he's listening to his idiot friend Lindsey Graham or he's listening to his idiot son-in-law. I don't know who it was. But one way or the other, that's what happened. And Donald Trump would say the right things about, like, sometimes on COVID, but he'd never really do it. Yeah. And I'll also just never forgive him for keeping Fauci on the job through all of 2020. But, mocking Sweden for not locking down, It would just be, I just like the funniest thing ever to me would be if there's a dramatic political shift in the next year where people are moderates say, I just don't want to vote for Trump. Then along comes this more personable, relatable libertarian candidate who's preaching all of these things. That would be cool.
And then the moment that libertarian gets in office, he starts bombing a bunch of foreign countries.
Whoa! She goes, guys, and then people like Phil's like, dude, what are you doing? You made all these promises. I go, hey, dude, you want to be the head of Raytheon? I can get you a pretty sweet gig. I go, I don't know. It just looks a lot different from the inside than it looks from the outside.
Phil's on the show and he's like, I can't believe we are betrayed by this guy. But I'm going to be sitting down and talk with some sense into him. And then the next day it's like he's wearing a suit and he was like, you are all wrong about the war and you hate America. Yeah.
Phil, did you always have diamond contact lenses?
I wouldn't talk about a new job, but there would be signs. There would be signs.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.